Okay, I'm back with the next Gren Twigs video, still talking about purity in Gren. Last time I talked about pure functions, which is this concept that a function will always give you the same return value for any given input. It cannot depend on any sort of external state. It also can't affect any external state. And that might seem a little strange if you're dealing with programs that need to depend on external state or affect external state, similar like local storage. I showed the local storage function in Gren doesn't actually give you the value that's in local storage. It gives you this thing called a task, and the task describes what you want to do. So how do you actually do it? The Gren runtime I mentioned at the end of that last video is how that works. So to explain it, I'm going to take you to the book first. Just to remind you, at grenlang.org/book, this intro page actually describes this whole topic of purity implicitly. It doesn't. I don't think it actually mentions purity, but it does talk about what makes Gren different and why it's might be appealing. And underneath all of this is this concept of purity that helps enable all of that. So read that if you want to. It might explain things better than I've been trying to explain them off the top of my head. But if you go down, you see there's a page. It's kind of short still and needs a little more information, but it touches on this Gren runtime. So here in this box, your Gren application code or package code or whatever, this is where, this is the code that you write. So that's where you're doing things that are like creating those task values and things. When you actually need to kick off that task, you would pass it to the Gren runtime. Now the Gren runtime will talk to the external systems, local storage, for example, and it will give you back a message. If you remember in our application, our clicker application, messages come to our update function. In this application, we made a sandbox. So a sandbox means you can't actually interact with the Gren runtime. You can only interact with yourself. So we have a view that can trigger messages, clicked plus or clicked minus. But if we were to create a different type of application, browser has something called element. We would have to make some changes to the rest of our application to support this. I'm probably not going to get to that until the next video, but if we upgrade to an element, we will be able to do things like send messages. So our update function wouldn't just return a model. It would return a new model and an optional command. So we could take a task or a series of tasks, wrap that up in a command, return it from update. That hits the Gren runtime. The Gren runtime will send a message back. So when we create a command, we also tell Gren what type of messages we expect to get back. So for a task, for example, we might have a task that tries to read from local storage. So we'll need a message. We'll create a new type of message that can receive either a string or a read error. That's so that when we write our update function, it'll get a message. And when that message is a string that we got back from local storage, great. When that message holds an error, we'll have to handle that too. When the message is the clicked plus or clicked minus, we'll handle it the same way we did before. So this is extending that idea that I talked about in the last video, where you have this peace of mind when writing Gren. Not just because you have a pure function, you don't have to worry about anything else besides what's in that function, but that also applies to what your program can do and what your program depends on, and what happens when things, external systems change or affect things that your program cares about. You know exactly where those entry points and exit points are in your application. There's no, I can't trigger a command from my view. I can't create a button that will just directly save something to local storage or get something back from local storage. All I can do is create a view that has HTML, and now you see the HTML actually holds this message type. That's because that's the only thing our view can do is show HTML and send messages. I'm gonna wrap it up here, and in the next video I will update our application to actually be able to send these commands and do things. So I'll see you then.